the way I feel about invasive food is threaten me with a good time. Good afternoon, beautiful people. Getting a late start today. It's been kind of a weird day. Had all sorts of stuff going on, and I actually didn't intend on picking the camera up today, but finally got to it. So, what I'm doing today, I thought people would be interested in. I actually wasn't planning on doing it today, but just so happens the sun is out, even though it's kind of cold right now. I figured I would come over here and take advantage of having a minute, and I am going to plant some seeds that need to go in the ground. This right here is my airprune bed. I made this bed sometime this summer. It's just a little 2x6 bed, I think, by about a foot deep. I think those are 2x12s. Anyways, it's real simple. It's got some 1-inch hardware cloth along the bottom, nailed in real good, and then I put wood chips in the bottom like 3-4 inches, and then the rest is finished compost and some dirt. Generally it's some pretty good soil in there. Good growing medium, good seed starting medium. What a airprune bed actually does is you can start trees in it. As the trees grow, the taproot pokes through the bottom of the box, hits air, and self-prunes. It's kind of cool. It's the way trees were designed to keep their, sensitive roots. Once they touch air, they just kind of like pull back and it'll send out side shoots. So basically, after a season in a airprune bed, you can pull these little trees out, 1 to 2 years actually, depending on what you want. You can pull them out, bare root them in the fall, and then you actually have a pretty good little seedling. The alternative is you plant a seed where you want a tree to grow, and hope that the odds are in the seed's favor. What I'm going to be planting today is I have some chestnut seeds. I had some black walnut seeds, but I was relieved of those by the 3-foot tall person. She's discovered that she loves black walnuts, and so she ate all of the seeds I was going to plant. I'm not mad. They either need to be eaten or planted. Nobody likes to see stuff just sit around until it rots. I'm going to be planting some peach pits, some apricot pits, just kind of the oddball stuff we've been hanging on to all year. Some of the chestnuts, viewers have sent me some of the chestnuts I have actually scavenged. There's a few neighbors around here who have some pretty nice chestnut trees, and they let me pick up some chestnuts. Or there's a vacant house that I know of that there was a chestnut tree in the front yard. There's nobody around. Nobody said not to. I might have picked up a few chestnuts there too. The nice thing about this airprune bed is I'm basically just gonna forget about it. The seeds will go in here, they'll stay out here over winter. Cold temperature should get the seeds to stratify, and then, that's pretty much it. The viable seeds will sprout. The seeds that are not viable will just become soil. It's pretty cool. It's kind of lazy gardener. All right, enough talking. I'm gonna get planting. Here's my apricot pits. I think I only have like 2 dozen of these. We didn't get very many apricots this year. Here's chestnuts. Oh, that's actually nice and wet down there. Chestnuts are just going to go in here like this, like so. I'm going to plant them pretty tight, maybe only a couple inches apart. We'll see how we do. Some of these have been in the fridge for a little bit, so I'm not going to hold my breath. They might not be viable, but it doesn't hurt to plant them. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Grow. Since Buggy's not over here. Alright, I don't know if I'm planting all of these peach pits. We just kind of saved a bunch of them. So I'll plant a good fair bit of them and see what we look like. Okay. All right, basically from that little white rock this way. I think there are some odds and ends in here. I've had the kids, they'll bring a seed to me and be like, hey Dad, look at this seed. You know, various tree seeds, hickory nut, pecan, whatever. And I'll be like, yeah, go put it in that corner. You know, northwestern corner of this box. And they'll go out there and plant it. So we'll see if anything random comes up in that corner. It'll be a fun surprise. Now, some of these chestnuts have actually been in the fridge way too long, so I'm not expecting those to germinate. But if they do, cool. If not, this first foot of this bed is chestnuts that I've already planted. Chestnuts kind of have a short window before they start drying out too much and I guess die. So I just put them straight in there, see if they can get their cold stratification taken care of this winter, and if they're gonna sprout, they'll sprout. That's the cool thing about seeds. This is kind of out of the way. This is like, even though it's right here by my nursery, it's not in the way, so I don't have to worry about it. It can just sit over here and do its thing. It'll get watered with the rain. Like as you can see, like it might have been dry on top, but the dirt is wet underneath, which is perfect. And it's not too wet, it's not soupy. But hopefully by spring, we will have, I think that was probably over 150 trees. If all these seeds come up, it would definitely be closer to 200 trees. That would be cool. Last year, even though my bucket experiments, seed in a bucket experiments failed, it wasn't a total bust. All of these right here, all these little sticks, some of them still have a few leaves left on them. These are peach trees that ended up coming up. All in all, right here in just this little spot right here, I have like 70 peach trees. Now some of them I'm gonna plant just as is. They're from seed. They might produce a good tree with good fruit. They might not. We're just gonna throw everything in the ground and see what produces good fruit. Some of them I'm gonna try my hand at grafting. I've already been successful in grafting apple trees onto Bradford pear rootstock. So I know I can graft. So I will take some of our cultivars that are known varieties and I will use these as rootstock. The possibilities are endless when you are growing stuff from seed and you're grafting. This was the bucket experiment for those of you who are still watching from that point. It wasn't a total bust. We did actually get quite a few trees. I think a couple cherry trees came up. I can actually walk down and show you where they're at. They have to be dug up and moved. You guys see the size of this peach tree and this peach tree? That is the difference between planting a seed where you want it and letting it do its thing and pulling that same tree up and putting it in a pot. The bucket experiment last year, the peach trees that did come up, as soon as they started poking up through the soil, I would dig up the seed with the tiny little sprout and I would throw it in a pot. And it eventually got to where so many were sprouting, I was putting like 5 or 6 in a pot because I was out of pots. Like, that's how many were popping up. If you guys remember, one of my buckets molded. I thought everything was dead. So I came over here, I dug a hole, and I dumped that bucket of moldy seeds right here in this. Well, these were like little box planters. These were the first planter beds that we built when we got here. There was an old like apple crate sitting out here in the weeds. I took it and cut it down and filled each one with dirt. We've gotten our use out of them, but as you can see, like what's left of the box is quickly turning into soil. That little spot where I planted the seeds, they didn't pop up till long after I was done picking up all of those sprouted seeds. I would say we were well into summer before this one finally popped up. It grew in 1 year. It grew probably 5, almost 6 feet. planted a seed last fall, and that's how much growth this thing got in 1 year. I would call that some absolute vigorous growth. Like, I have been pleasantly surprised with it. Something else I've noticed too is whatever variety these are, you know, mind you, they're whatever we got from the farm stand. There's some Georgia peaches, South Carolina peaches. They were very tasty peaches, and that's why we saved seeds from them. You know, once upon a time, if you liked a fruit, you saved the seed from it and planted it, and maybe you could get a tree that was like the fruit that you ate. That's kind of my mentality with it. Well, something I've noticed is these peach trees have kept their leaves way longer than the cultivars we have in the orchard. Maybe that means they're a little more cold hardy than the varieties we have. If that's the case, they are more than welcome here. Even if the fruit they produce isn't that good, we could have a source of, you know, animal feed. Oh, and cherry trees. It's hard to tell right now, but this right here is a cherry tree, and so is this one. I know it doesn't look like much, but these little sticks, these popped up long after this thing was already, you know, over a foot tall. So I've actually got to dig up and dig around this guy's roots. I've got to dig this guy up and move him. I got to dig this guy up and move him, and this one. It's going to be a chore because I know back during the summer I was over here poking around. Yeah, look at that. Look at all those fire ants. That's going to be real fun. I may just let all those trees just deal with the fire ants, because I don't feel like digging up a tree with all those fire ants. That doesn't sound fun. I thought I would share that with you guys. I know that there was a lot of work done to this soil because we were growing in these boxes, and then to have a tree just, I mean, none of my trees, this caught up and passed. I have bought trees from a nursery that are 2-year-old trees that are smaller than this thing. I have been amazed by the growth of this cultivar. Wish I knew what cultivar it was. Realistically, this thing could get big enough, it could probably fruit in another year. I think peach trees usually they can fruit at about 3. Some can do it in 2 years. I know the ones that we have from seed that were up in the upper orchard, they fruited at 3 years. So, I mean, theoretically, that'd be pretty cool. So now for something fun. This is one of the last harvests that we'll do out of 2023's garden. These sticks that you see behind me, these are Jerusalem Artichokes. We've grown them several years, just kind of as a pollinator thing, because they get yellow little sunflowery looking flowers. It started as, hey, like this is a pretty sustainable crop. A lot of people say, yeah, don't plant them because they'll become invasive. The way I feel about invasive food is threaten me with a good time. You mean there's a food crop that I can plant and not have to worry about it dying? It's just gonna crank out as much food until I'm sick of it? Uncle, I give. We ordered some Jerusalem artichoke from Azure Standard, I believe. It showed up, it was like, I don't know, a pound, 2 pounds, something like that. Just a bag of the little tubers. I took them and I stuck them in a pot because, you know, so many people were like, they're gonna be invasive. Well, I let them grow in a pot, and the, 5 or 6 that I put in a pot, they grew like gangbusters. They did great. Well, then was it last fall before last? I got into the pot and I noticed that the pot had actually split. Well, when I started pulling it out, it was absolutely packed full of new tubers. Well, I had let them freeze before I got to them, and they ended up all turning to mush. But I had some that had gotten stuck out here in this bed. Well, it was like 1 or 2 or 3 tubers in here, and they multiplied and took over the entire bed. These things are probably 8 feet tall, loving life, doing great. So I'm gonna dig some of these up. I don't know if we'll have them with dinner tonight. I don't know what Meg's plans are. Me and Buggy came over here and we filled up an entire basket with tubers, and I think we dug for 5 minutes. So I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna dig another basket. It's like looking for buried treasure. It really is fun. There's one. There's one. See, that was what happened last year. By the time I got to them, they were already starting to rot. So, it's not a total bust. I'm gonna plant that. And if there is any life left in it, it can grow and become next year's artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes, sunchokes. Should have went over that. Have to be real clear with the names. Oh yeah. Look at those. Those are beautiful tubers. All these itty bitty teeny tiny ones, I'll just let those, they can stay. We'll eat the big ones, and the little ones can be next year's food. 2, 3, 4. 5. Supposedly you can eat these raw. I think the warning about eating these raw is they can bother your stomach. They actually taste pretty good. They remind me of carrots, the way they taste. That's something that I haven't found looking these things up. Nobody says what they taste like. Kind of like a weird carrot. It's got an interesting, almost unique flavor. Supposedly you can cook them just like potatoes. I bet they'd be pretty good. The crunch actually reminds me of like a raw potato. I already have some that I've picked, so I'm gonna pick just a little bit more, and I might just leave the rest. They can survive over winter, or we can dig more later. I'd say that's good. That was, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of digging, and I still have the majority of the bed to dig up. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm happy with that. That was pretty good for just a corner of this bed. All right, I'm not done with the seeds. Meg actually reminded me, this is a handful of seeds from some American plum trees. If you've never heard of an American plum, honestly, it's about the size of a big cherry. It is a very local tree. We don't have any on our property, but not too far from here, you'll see them growing on the side of the road. They're everywhere. American plum used to be everywhere. It used to be kind of a staple local forage. Since we've been here, all of my foraging books have talked about them. They name, you know, this tree, and this tree. If you have those, you're gonna have plum. Well, check, and we don't have any plum on our property. Well, I was over at my friend Jason's house, you know, sow the land, and he's got plum trees everywhere, like everywhere. And he pointed them out, and while we were over there, the fruit was ripe. And so I walk up, and you know, they had been eating the fruit as it ripened, and they were keeping up with the trees. Like when the fruit's really good, you can walk out there and you can sit there, and before you know it, you've stripped the tree and you don't have any for the basket. It sounds like that's what they were doing. They were enjoying it. So I asked him, I was like, hey, can I have some, or just the seeds? Could you save me seeds? I want to propagate these. Absolutely. So he gave me some seeds of ones that, you know, he had eaten, and then there was a couple more that I picked up off the ground that were kind of rotten. There was ones that I got to eat and I saved the seed from. So I wound up with, a dozen. I wound up with a dozen seeds. So I'm gonna stick these out here in my airprune bed, and we'll see if we can get some of those going on too.
Wow!
There you go. Thank you. Now they know what to do. All right, real quick before everybody bounces from the table. And this battery's about had it too. Dinner was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
It was good for a cold day like today.
It was, yeah, this was really cool today.
All right, that'll do it for us for today. So we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Enjoying her food.